Hello, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. I'm Carrie. I'm a 29-year-old vegan living in Bristol in the UK with my fiance, who is not vegan but eats vegan at home with me. I make videos all about living as frugally as possible while still enjoying my food and life as a vegan in the UK. So I do hope you stick around. This month, the month of May, I am tracking what I spend in the grocery store and showing you the quick and easy vegan meals that I make throughout. I will say, I think my perspective of budget is perhaps a little bit skewed because of doing these challenges, because I've recorded a grocery haul for this week and I was like, oh my goodness, I've spent so much money. And it was £31 for two people for a week, which is actually not very much at all. It's like $15.50 per person. So I think I needed to regain some perspective and be like, oh, actually, yes, that is still a budget. It's just not the crazy challenges that we've been doing. I will be getting back to those next month, but this month has been a bit of a reset month for us and just eating. Normally we've got lots on next month as well, but I'll be a bit more prepared for that. This week, did a grocery shop, and it was mainly at my corner shop, which is a co-op, so not the cheapest, but I did actually pick up another few bits from Aldi that I wanted to address now. Unfortunately, I have lost the receipt. I know that I spent £8.09, but I won't be able to break down what everything costs. I've got like a good idea, but I thought I would just talk you through that. So the first thing I got was a bag of pasta, which is penne pasta, and we have already almost eaten this. We've got one more portion left, so we definitely need to get some more of that as well, but we completely ran out of pasta. And that was 42p for the penne. It's just the cheapest one that you can get. We also got a cream cheese, which I have here. So we got this plant menu, garlic and herb. I've used this so much in my videos. It's a real staple for us. It's only £1.95 as well, which I think is such a good deal. I think that's quite on par with what a dairy one would cost. We like to use it in pasta dishes. We like to use it in stroganoff, on toast, bagels, like you name it, that cream cheese is going on it. So that was £1.95, and got a couple of reduced bits as well. So the first one, which I've eaten and I can't show you, was like a big punnet of raspberries, and they were 30% off. They were still £1 something. I want to say around the £1.60, 70-ish mark. They would have been around £2.20, something like that, without the offer. So had those, eaten those. You will see a clip of me eating some and some yogurt. The next thing I got that was on offer, which I've got half of one left, and these feature quite heavily in the video, so you'll see, are these vine ripened tomatoes. We absolutely loved grilled tomatoes while we were on holiday. They had grilled tomatoes pretty much daily at the all-inclusive that we were at, and they were just absolutely delicious. So we've had them that way. These were 30% off, and I believe with the discount they were down to maybe like £1.20-ish, £1.10-ish. Next thing were these chestnut mushrooms. These were 30% off. To be honest, these are pretty much a staple that I would buy weekly anyway, so I was really happy to see 30% off, and as you can see, we've still got some there. These are 89p regularly, so 8, 16, 24p off-ish. So what would that be? About 65p for these-ish. We also got garlic bread, and these only come in doubles now in Aldi, which is a bit annoying. But that was like 74p, I think. I am sure there are things that I'm forgetting. I think we got a couple of snacks while we were there as well, to be honest, which again, they don't make it into the meal, so I don't really include them. But yeah, overall that was £8. So hello, me again. Sorry, this is post-editing Carrie. I knew that I would forget something else. We also got some of the chicken bites from Aldi, so that's why it added up to £8. So I think for this week, we are on 39-ish pounds, which again, for two people, there are snacks in there, like that's not bad at all. So let's get into the video, and I will show you the haul that we did at Co-op and maybe another shop, I can't remember. and then we'll go into the meals that we ate.
Okay, if I'm honest, I was not expecting to be doing such a big haul this week, but my fiance's been a bit unwell. I was on a hen do over the weekend at the end of this week, and I think we just ended up picking up some treats and various things, but there we go, we're just keeping a track of everything, so holding myself accountable. Yeah, we'll start with the co-op, which is these chips, crinkle cut chips, and they were £1.90. Co-op is actually the closest shop to us, so if we need to get things of an evening where we haven't been organised, that's where we go, because it's a 2-minute walk rather than like a 10-minute walk to Aldi or Lidl. So £1.90 chips. Linda McCartney sausages were on offer for £1.75, so I got some of those. Orange juice was £2.20, and I think that is everything from the co-op. And then they didn't have hash browns, which is what we wanted for a future kind of breakfast for dinner situation, so I then went to the corner shop and got these for £1.89. So my fiance went to Lidl this week while I was at the hen do. He got us some treats. So he got us, I like Sprite Zero, he likes Dr. Pepper Zero, and these were on offer for $3.49 each for 8 cans. So I've only got one out each, but that explains that. We don't normally have fizzy drinks in the house, and we'll just get them like as a treat. But I think because he's been under the weather and I was coming back and might have been feeling a bit worse for wear after a hen do, he thought that would be a nice treat for us, which it really, really was. So I appreciated that. Next, blueberries were £1.09. They were on offer this week, I believe. Grapes were £1.99, and I also bought back 2 punnets of grapes for free from the hen do that weren't eaten. So actually we have got an abundance of grapes in the fridge now. This was on offer, the vanilla soya yogurt for 99 pence, which is really good. Granny Smith's got some more of those for £1.49. My partner has these every single week in his lunch, so those are a staple. This bread was on offer for 69p. So just got some white bread. The nuts were £1.79, and again, my fiance likes to take these to work, although I do snack on them sometimes as well. And then we got 2 packs of bacon. They were 50% off, so £1.09 each. And then from Holland and Barrett, I got nutritional yeast because we are almost out of this. And this was £4.50, but I had a 50p Holland and Barrett voucher, so only £4. And then finally, my fiance went to a football match, which is near Heron, so he popped in and got this for me for 79p. You also have seen in clips that I've eaten that he got me a rice packet meal with lentils for £1, and also a granola meal for £1. So this brings our total this week spent to £31.04.
Today I am going to be making some bread. We are coming to the end of our loaf of bread that we got on offer, half price recently, and just like Oleo's been quite quiet lately in areas immediately near us, so that is where I usually kind of go for my bread. But I have flour, I have yeast, I've got salt, and I've got warm water, so I've got everything I need to make bread. Now, this is a recipe that I have stolen with pride from another YouTuber. She's called Frugal Fit Mum. So she is not vegan, but she is very budget friendly and looking at ways to save money on your groceries. So I find her really useful to watch, even though she's not vegan, because of the way that she shops and the way that she does things to save money. So I just take what I can from her, and then I obviously just ignore the parts and don't use the parts that aren't relevant to me. But this is her recipe for like a no need bread. So this isn't quick, but it's very, very simple, and you just leave it rest for hours essentially. Now, I've wanted to try this for ages. So the first thing I'm going to do is add flour to my mixing bowl, which I have just got here. So it's 3 cups. These are in American measurements. Obviously, you can convert it if you need to, but I have
some cups, so I'm just going to use the American measurements. So I want 3 cups of flour, then I want some salt, and I'm just going to eyeball this and do a little bit of salt. Okay, and then it's half a teaspoon of yeast. I've got a half teaspoon measure here, and this is like the quick yeast as well. It's instant, which I just put in. Lovely. And then I need 1.5 cups of warm water. 1 cup of warm water. And another 1/2 cup of warm water. And then what I'm going to do is mix it all together and just form a dough in this bowl. Now, I do know with bread recipes as well, it kind of depends on your climate as to whether you need more flour, more water, but I will let this be with those measurements and then adjust later if needed. So, and then what I'm going to do with that is cover it for 8 hours and just let it sit. So this is what my dough looks like. And I'm going to cover it with a tea towel. And then I am going to come back to it in 8 hours. It does say 8 to 24, but I don't have 24 hours for this. I've got 8. So that's what I'm going to do. This is how the bread has turned out. So it was half an hour with the other pan on top, or the lid on if you've got a casserole dish or a Dutch oven, and then 15 minutes with it off, and I did it at 220 degrees centigrade, which I think is 450 Fahrenheit, I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but yeah. So I am gonna just leave it rest, and then I'm gonna have some tomorrow, so I'll do a taste test, but I'm very proud of myself, it looks really good. Okay, after cutting, this is what the bread looks like. It didn't rise all that much, it was more of a ball, I would say. So the slices are quite small, if you can see, and that one is just, yeah. But that's what they look like. I think for a first attempt at bread, I'm not mad. I've had obviously the obligatory tax of having to taste test it, and it tastes really good, but yeah, could have risen better. I only let it sit for 8 hours or 9 hours, and the recipe said you should let it sit before you bake it for 8 to 24. So maybe I should have done it for a full day. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm not mad about it, but I'm obviously not going to be making big sandwiches with this or anything. But I think for toast and like other things, for a first attempt, I'm still really happy about it because it tastes really nice. And it's nice, and like the outside's really crunchy, which I like. So yeah, this is it. Office breakfast of granola. This was 10 out of 10, no notes. We'll get again. I just had porridge with banana and blueberry like normal. We had bacon sandwiches this day, which was so tasty. This day I had some yogurt with some of those raspberries that I bought and blueberries. So I said a while ago that because I've got a lot of chickpea flour in my cupboard due to making seitan and needing a little bit in that, I'd like to make more things with it rather than just seitan because it uses such a small amount, and it's for like vegan egg muffins. So I'll have a muffin tin, I'll use chickpea flour instead of like the egg, I'll use some kala namak, and I will leave the recipe that I'm using in the link below because I do not trust myself to just wing it, which is my usual cooking technique. If you haven't figured that out by now, I'm normally inspired by recipes, but this one I want to make sure that I'm, following. So the first thing I need is chickpea flour. I've got a massive bag of it and it just lasts so long. So I'm going to start with that, and I need 1.5 cups of chickpea flour. Again, I tend to use, I don't know, I watch a lot of American influencers, I guess, and YouTubers, so I tend to use the American measurements, but again, that is because I've actually got the cups and stuff. So if you don't, then you can just convert it. But I'm going to do 1.5 cups of chickpea flour. So there's a cup.
Okay, 1.5 cups of chickpea flour, which looks like that. And then we want 1/3 cup of nutritional yeast. So I actually think I do have, yes, I do have 1/3. So I'll fill that. I'm probably going to have to open the new one that I got. Okay, so 1/3 cup of nutritional yeast. Okay, so the next thing I need to add is salt. So I'm just going to use table salt, and I need 1.5 teaspoons. And then the rest I'll use as black salt to give it an eggy flavour. 1/2 teaspoon. That's 1.5 teaspoons. And then a teaspoon of herbs. So I've just got this Italian herb seasoning, I think from Lidl. Yeah, so that's half. 1. Okay, and then I need to add 1 cup of water and give it a stir. 1 cup of water. And then I'll just give that a mix. What smells very eggy, which is what we want, obviously. Paste. I'm going to add another cup of water and then 1/3 cup of oil. My 2nd cup of water. So now we're getting it less of a paste and more of a batter. And then the 1/3 cup of an oil. Just going to add that in. I've used olive oil. By the way, the oven is preheating to 190. Okay, and then I'm going to add some veggies. So I've cut up some mushroom and some bell pepper. So I have 2 mushrooms cut up into little pieces. And then I had 1 very small red bell pepper. That looks good. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of this shredded vegan cheese. You obviously can just grate your own cheese into it, but this is just the one that we have in, which is ideal. Okay, so that's the batter ready, and this is what it looks like. It's quite watery, but that's okay. That's what it should look like. And I'm just going to take my muffin tin and add in, and this should make 12 muffins. So I'll see once I've done that. You can see here I've just greased the pan with a little bit of margarine, and then I'm going to add in the mix. Okay, so I wasn't sure if my mixture would be a bit too watery, but this has actually worked out perfectly into my 12 muffin bits. So clearly it was exactly right. So the oven is at 190 degrees centigrade, and they are going in for half an hour, but it does say when they're dry on top and crack, so I will be keeping an eye out for that. This is what they look like when they came out. I gave them an extra 5 minutes just because they looked a little bit gooey in the middle, but these look like they're done well, so they're nice and crispy, and I'm just going to leave them in the tray for a while now to cool and to firm up. So I am just going to try one of these egg cups. It's nice and crispy. That's the bottom. We'll give it a go. That's really good. That's really, really nice. And it's really good with like the cheesiness as well. Those are a win. And these are meant to be like 2 of the bites at a time. You can have them for breakfast, for lunch, but these are just prepped now. If you haven't tried chickpea flour before, it's really bitter if you don't cook it properly. So that's always the risk that I'm like, is it going to taste good? This tastes amazing. I'd really recommend this recipe. I'll link it in the comments, but I did add on an extra 5 minutes, but your oven might be fine with the 30 minutes it says. Yum! This should be, I don't know if any of you follow the Ugly Vegan Instagram page. It's where they post pictures of ugly food that vegans have made. And this should be on there for sure. This is a spaghetti hoop and vegan cheese toasty with some hash browns on the side. Chopping up some red pepper and onion for a super quick lunch this day. Put that in a pan with some oil, and I added some of these black-eyed peas. I added some seasonings, bay leaves, and cooked some rice with it. And this is what I had with a little bit of cheese on top. And then I had it as leftovers the next day as well, which was really good. This was the rice packet that my fiance got me from Heron. It's Italian style sun-dried tomato, and you can see it's got lentils, rice, had barley in. It was a full meal, which I wasn't expecting, and it was actually very good. So I definitely get this again. That's what it looked like when it was all cooked up. I'm going to be making some of these chickpeas up in my Instant Pot. So I'm going to take 2 cups of chickpeas and then 6 cups of water. Sorry about how ideal is that. That's the bag gone now, and that's pretty much exactly 2 cups of chickpeas, which is great. So I just add them to here, and then I'll add 6 cups of water. This is what they look like, and I've added a tiny bit of salt in here as well. So it's manual high pressure for 70 minutes. The chickpeas are cooked, so I've got kind of a double portion here, a double portion in here. So these are for recipes, and then just single portions, because my fiance doesn't like chickpeas. I love chickpeas, so I tend to have them for lunches when we eat separately, obviously. Okay, so I've got my Pearl spelt here, finally gonna use it. So I've put 1 cup into the Instant Pot and then 2 cups of water, and then I'm gonna put this on manual, and I want that for much less time, for 25 minutes. First thing I'm going to do is just finely chop these 2 tomatoes. So I'm just chopping these up into very small bite-sized pieces because this is going to go into a salad. So I want them nice and small. Cherry tomatoes would work here as well. Then I'm just going to add them to the chickpeas, and then I'm going to make a dressing and kind of stir it all in the big bowl, because I think that's going to be the easiest thing to do with this one. Next are artichokes. I have a tin of them. I've saved a couple for a sandwich, but otherwise chop those and gone in as well. This is what the spelt looks like after coming out of the Instant Pot. I did 25 minutes and then I let it slow release for 20 minutes, and I've just given it a rinse as well. So I'm going to add that to the bowl of chickpeas, tomatoes and artichokes. And then I'm going to add oil, salt, pepper, Italian herb seasoning, some garlic, mix it all up. And this is what it ends up looking like. And that will sit in the fridge and I'll have it over the next few days. This might actually be my favourite dinner from this week. So I've just got the Linda McCartney chicken fillets there in the pan. While those are in the pan, I've got the teriyaki unagi out and the Singapore noodles from the freezer. And I've got some broccoli there as well, which I'm just going to chop up and then put in with the chicken all chopped up as well. And I added some seasonings before I added the noodles. So I added soy sauce, sesame oil, garlic, salt and pepper essentially to this, and then mixed it all together like that, and then had the teriyaki unagi just in the microwave. These were really yummy. Right, so tonight I'm making mac and cheese, but I'm adding these on top and obviously just getting rid of the katsu sauce. All I did with these ingredients were add them to a blender with some hot water and blended about a handful of the cashews, and then some garlic bread to go in the oven as well to accompany our mac and cheese, which was really yummy. I would recommend doing cashews as a sauce. Hello, I am making breakfast for dinner again today. So what I've got here that I need to prep is some tofu. I also have some tomatoes. These were 30% off, as you can see, in Aldi, as were these mushrooms. So gonna grill the mushrooms and the tomatoes, and gonna do the tofu on the hob. Also got some Linda McCartney sausages, got some bacon from Lidl, and hash browns from the Co-op, and some toast. I also have beans. I'm not sure if I'm going to do them. My fiance doesn't like beans, so we'll just see how it comes together and whether I think it needs it. I feel like this is going to be a pretty full plate already. I chopped these tomatoes into quarters to add to the grill pan with some oil, salt and pepper. These cooked up really well, and then I chopped some mushrooms into little slices and added them to the grill pan as well, again with salt, pepper and oil. And then with the tofu, I am just crumbling it into a bowl, nice and fine, and then I'm adding black salt, which is the eggy flavour, turmeric, I added some garlic granules and some paprika, and then some nutritional yeast as well, and gave this a stir before putting it on the pan. Okay, so this is what it looks like going into the oven. I've got the quarters of tomato there, the mushrooms and the Linda McCartney sausages. These are all going under the grill, and I've added oil, salt and pepper to the tomatoes and the mushrooms. And I'm just going to keep an eye and like turn it all really regularly. Then in the air fryer, we've got our hash browns. And then on the hob, I'm going to do bacon and tofu scramble. Toast will just go in the toaster. Because I had frozen the bacon, these are just in smaller slices while I was trying to get them apart. And this is what the meal looked like. It was so delicious. Would really recommend it. That was everything that we ate this week. They haven't been consecutive days, but that is a week's worth of food for us. I really enjoyed prepping a little bit more. I definitely want to do that. The bread was actually really fun to make, and I was quite proud of how it came out. Definitely could have had a better rise, but it tasted so good, especially with the cream cheese actually, so I'd really recommend that. The spelt is actually really tasty, so I've got a big batch of that in the fridge that I can just have on hand for lunches now. And the little egg muffins, also prepped those with some mushroom and some pepper in. My fiance likes them, and he doesn't like chickpeas, but he likes the chickpea flour muffins, so I think that's a big win for me actually, that they tasted really good. Otherwise, we just had some pasta dishes, various things this week. This coming week, I'm going to try and be a bit more inventive with what I'm making, and hopefully do a little bit more prepping as well. We are definitely getting into wedding season in this house, not my own wedding. We haven't even started planning that yet, so that is for next year. We start planning, I think. But we do have 4 weddings to go to this year, and 2 of them are next month. So we are going to need prepped food and things to be encouraging us to not order takeaway when we get back after a really busy, hectic weekend and stuff like that. Do stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please do give it a like. Please subscribe to the channel if you aren't already and you want to see more of these videos, and share. Tell your friends. Leave me a comment down below if you try any of these recipes or if you're tempted to, and I'll see you next time. Bye.